Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I have news to share from focus groups that I have been waiting for 2 weeks. They were supposed to be out a while back. These were two groups of swing voters. So they were Biden to Trump swing voters from the state of Nevada. Very, very interesting. So stay tuned for some really great details and audio. Before I get into these details, though, please do me a huge favor. Hit the subscribe button below this video. It's free for you to become a subscriber. It really, really helps the show. So I greatly appreciate it. So here's the deal. They asked them their political party or political persuasion. And this was very interesting. So none of these people were actually Democrats. None of them consider themselves to be Democrats out of the 12. And it was two separate groups of 6 people in each group. One out of the 12 considered herself to be a Republican, and then 11 out of the 12 are either independents or unaffiliated voters. So these people are, mostly reluctantly voting for Trump, but they're not like the hardcore base. These aren't the hardcore cult members who just go along with anything that he does because they see benefits in both parties. So keep that in mind as I'm going through this information. And there were a couple, I will say this, there were a couple in these two groups who just excused away just about everything horrible about Trump and what he's done. But for the most part, these are just people who are, I would say they're just not plugged in, right? They're low information voters. They are not plugged in on the day-to-day of what's going on. And they were just looking for something other than the status quo. And they wanted some financial relief, especially. So overall, they're not happy with the way things are going down right now. So they were asked, are you less anxious, more anxious, or about the same level of anxiety in regard to the economy as compared to when Biden was in office? 1 out of the 12 said that they're less anxious. 8 out of the 12 say that they are now more anxious. And 3 said, nah, I feel about the same. And here are some of the reasons that they gave for why they feel more anxious. Take a listen to this.
It started with the tariffs, what everybody was saying in the stock market and then every week or so, then he threatens somebody or a tariff on somebody again and just kind of keeps you on edge. Like, I'm not really sure. It feels like you can't really be sure what's going to happen. So when you're unsure, that keeps anxiety.
The cost of living is what gives me anxiety. I thought gas prices were going to go down. I thought that egg prices were going to go down, which they have slightly, but the other prices in the grocery store haven't subsided.
Yeah, not working out. Turns out presidents don't actually really control the prices. Who knew? Besides most people. Anyway, not exactly what they were expecting. They also asked these people who they believe is more responsible for the current economic conditions. And this one always cracks me up. So 6 said Biden. 6 out of the 12 said Biden. 6 out of the 12 said Trump. As in all of these groups, there is at least one Yahoo in the bunch who blames Biden after saying, oh no, the economy's getting better. I'm less anxious now. So one guy who was by far out of the two groups, he was the biggest Kool-Aid drinker. He blamed Biden for the state of the economy after claiming that inflation is going down. So are you saying Biden's making the economy better now that he's out of office? There's no rhyme or reason. They also asked about the tariffs and whether or not they support or oppose Trump's actions related to the tariffs. 5 out of the 12 said they support it. 4 out of the 12 oppose. And then 3 said, I don't really know enough to make a decision. What is so clear from listening to all of these people is the majority of voters still don't understand how tariffs work. They don't understand who ends up paying for them, that is a tax on us. They also don't understand the purpose of a tariff. They don't get that it should be used strategically. It should target certain industries and goods to bring industries back that we actually have the ability to resurrect in this country. For example, they talk about, oh, we need reciprocal tariffs because we've been paying other countries and so they should be paying us in return. They don't get it. Anyway, what I was most interested to hear were answers to questions about the Jeffrey Epstein scandal and the cover up. They did not disappoint. So the moderators read the focus groups two different statements. So they posited theories that basically, have been levied mostly by MAGA, or mostly on the right, I should say, not just MAGA, for why Donald Trump's administration has decided not to release anything outside of what they've already released, which was what we've already known. But anyway, why they're not releasing the rest of the Epstein files. So one theory was basically this is a liberal deep state plot. It's a distraction. And then the other was essentially it's a cover up. 4 out of the 12 said, yeah, I think it's it's number one. It's the Democrat hoax and a distraction, blah, blah, blah. But 8 out of the 12 said, yeah, I kind of lean towards the cover up. So Trump, he's not winning this messaging war, at least not on this topic. So I'm going to share a couple of clips with you to give you guys an idea of the feedback that they got from these voters. And I'll have more of these to share in the FAFO videos throughout the week, so be sure to check those out. But here's what a couple of them had to say. So let me play this for you.
I think there's enough evidence to show that Epstein committed suicide. And just the fact that Trump and the others said that they would show the Epstein files. They even came out and said it was on their desk and they were going to get through the list and let us know. And then all of a sudden, it's like someone told them, hey, hush it up. And now all of a sudden there's no such document. They've never seen it, never heard of it when they just said it was on their desk.
It just feels like typical Trump deflection, right? Like, give me a straight answer about Jeff Epstein and let's move forward, right? But instead, I'm going to talk about all my successes. I'm going to get you kind of thinking like, oh, this is a minor topic. This is no big deal. And I'm going to spew vitriol about these other people to deflect from the real topic, which is the fact that I'm not giving the files over and I'm not being forthcoming.
Yeah. So that was the majority of the sentiment in the groups. So stay tuned for those FAFO videos. And then they asked these same participants, is Trump engaged in a cover-up to protect his own reputation? 6 out of the 12 said yes. Again, these are people who just voted for him. And they're saying, yeah, Donald Trump did something nefarious. We don't know what it is, but he's obviously guilty of doing something wrong with Jeffrey Epstein, the most well-known pedophile in the world, and he's in on it somehow. That is what they're thinking. This is so not a good sign for Trump. These voters were also read Donald Trump's Truth Social post. I read it to you guys, I think maybe a week or two ago it came out. The one where he said this is all a hoax and, people need to let it go and people who believe in this are basically stupid. I forget the exact phrasing, but that's the gist of what he said. So they read that to them and they asked, do you feel insulted by this? 7 out of the 12 said yes. And then this next part was completely infuriating. So the moderator asked if they're concerned about foreign visitors feeling less welcome in the U.S. And they asked, why travelers might feel like they're not welcome. 7 out of the 12 said it does concern them because remember, these are people living in Nevada, in a state that is almost completely reliant on tourism for their economy. So, what pissed me off, though, what made me just absolutely infuriated and wanting to scream, is the vast majority are still completely unaware of how the government is treating foreign visitors and immigrants. There were only like 2 people out of the 12 who accurately identified Donald Trump's detentions and his deportations as why people are afraid to come to this country. And one woman, she had other issues with Trump, but she sat there shaking her head in disagreement as one woman pointed this out. And as I said, for the most part, these are low information voters. They don't really know what's going on in their own country, which is sad. Which leads me to this next question. They were asked if they disapprove or approve or disapprove of Trump's handling of illegal immigration. Not legal, but illegal immigration. 5 out of the 12 said, yeah, I approve of what he's doing and how he's doing it. 5 out of the 12 disapprove. And then 2 said, I don't really know enough about what he's doing to have an opinion. I would argue the 5 who approve also don't have enough information to voice an opinion, at least based on what they said. They're clueless. But here's what a couple of them had to say about why this is affecting travel to the U.S. So take a listen to this one.
Reading and watching a lot of issues with people's just fear of coming to the United States. And so I just think that the view of America, of traveling to America, may not be as attractive, which obviously hurts us, especially locally in Clark County.
The recent reports indicating the hotel occupancy, the gaming revenue that compared from several years, previous years, things of that nature, that the decrease in visitors. So everything that we see or hear, or everything I should say, I see or hear on the news or from friends that are working on the strip and work in the casinos, they report back and we talk about it and they see a decline as well.
Yeah. So absolutely voted against their own best interests, especially in that state. And these swing voters were also asked whether or not they like Donald Trump's big butt ugly bill. That's the one that was just passed, that takes health care and all kinds of stuff away from Americans. So 1 out of 12 said, yeah, I like it. Can you guess who? The big Trump pumper. 4 out of the 12 said, no, I dislike it. And then 7 said, I don't really know enough. And then they drilled down on the one part of the bill called no tax on tips, or that they, talked about as no tax on tips, the provision in that bill. Again, this is Vegas. So a lot of these people, either make tips themselves or they know people who do. And so 4 out of the 12 said, yeah, I like that provision. 3 out of the 12 said that they dislike it. And then the others didn't have a strong opinion. It boggles my mind. I mean, I work in a state, I live in a state that is completely dependent on people tipping, but I don't have an opinion. Now, what's interesting is the moderator read all of the details of how this no tax on tips provision actually works. And 2 of these people said they felt tricked. One of them receives part of her income in tips. So let me play for you those comments. This is very interesting.
Wasn't what I thought it was. I thought that we weren't going to have to pay taxes on our tips at all. And that's not, after reading that, that's not the case. So I feel duped.
That was definitely a big reason why I supported the administration as far as voting them in. And it's kind of like deceitful, like they fooled us again to just tell us it's going to be one thing and then kind of stretch out the truth, and it's, barely keeping their promise, and kind of like it's kind of a slap in the face to make us think like we're getting what they said they would, but now there's all this fine print that we have to read through.
Who could have known, you guys? Who could have known that Donald Trump and his administration wouldn't be forthcoming and wouldn't shoot straight and just tell people the truth? God, I mean, it's just so out of character for them. Anyway, they were also asked about the cuts to Medicaid, and they were read specific language and the requirements that are laid out in the bill. So what was interesting with this one is 10 out of the 12 support the new work requirements that they have. However, the vast majority does not support cuts being made to Medicaid programs and people losing health care. So, I don't know how to square that one. This next one was very revealing. They asked these people, what emotion do you feel when you see Donald Trump on your TV or your device? So not what he's exhibiting as an emotion, but what he makes you feel. The answers were mostly negative, so I'm going to run through these. Disappointment, 2 said uncertainty, fooled, disgust, engaged, worried, unsure, confident, intrigued, conflicted, anxiety. And when they asked them, overall, do you approve or disapprove of Trump's second term so far? Only 3 out of the 12 approve. 7 out of the 12 said, I disapprove. 2 said, I'm still on the fence. I haven't decided yet. Again, these are people who just voted for him. More than half now disapprove of his administration. So here's what some of them had to say. And again, I'll have more for you guys in the FAFO videos, but check this out.
A little disappointed in some things because Trump has made a lot of promises that, some of them he just didn't deliver on. So gas prices went down and then they went back up. And I haven't really seen anything happen, with the groceries especially. Like since he's been in office, I've actually been spending more whenever I go to the grocery stores.
Yeah. Oh, so apparently I only had one. I thought I had more than one in that video, but anyway. So this is so infuriating. Again, I mean, how could they not know? How could you not know that he's not going to be able to reduce prices? I mean, other than destroying and tanking the economy, what do you think he's going to do? But here's what the Democratic Party needs to be aware of. They were asked, if you could go back in time and vote again, would you vote for Kamala Harris? Only 1 out of the 12 said yes. So clearly, Kamala Harris should not run again for president, should not be the nominee. I mean, she's welcome to run. It's a democracy, but she should not be the nominee. And the majority of these people had negative words and phrases because they asked them to give a word or phrase to describe both the Democratic Party and the Republican parties. They were almost across the board negative on both parties, but more so towards the Democrats. So that explains why these people are almost all independents in these groups. So Democrats need to understand, just because people are pissed off at Trump and not happy about what he's doing, it does not automatically mean you can put up another centrist, middle of the road, do nothing, status quo Democrat, and you're just going to sail to victory. Especially because more than likely Donald Trump is not going to be on the ballot, unless he does try to finagle a third term, and if he's still alive. But more than likely, he's not going to be on the ballot in 2028. So they better put up somebody who actually speaks to the needs of the working class, or they're done. They're just done. All right, guys, I will have more for you. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Please like, please share, and subscribe. Please donate if you can. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.